What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today, I bankrupt you once again by Jake, Jimmy, and Nick.
What's going on, y'all?
You did it out of order.
We're back again, baby.
And we just got back from Gencon, yesterday. But hey, we are all at Gencon to some degree. We got the chance to do events or just walk around and have a great time. Before we go any further, if you haven't gone to Gencon, just go. Like, not just for events, but the experience itself is always fantastic. Get a chance to play board games before they come out, or even test certain things. It's just a fun environment. It is crowded, but if you get past that, I think you'll have a great time. Because we were at Gen Con, there is no recorded videos this past weekend outside of what we recorded for a potential video hopefully next weekend. So what you will expect throughout this week would be us kind of going over reveals that we've kind of pre-recorded before this past weekend. So when we go over the starter deck, we're going to be missing 2 cards because they weren't out when we recorded the video at the time. But hey, we'll catch up when we get to black. And we'll have, at some point this week, a Time Wars video. Goku versus Vegeta from their first fight. So yay, fun. But we're here to talk about mainly Gen Con and our experience this past weekend. And yeah, I think it was fantastic. I had a great time. Both me and Jake played in 2 events, Battle Spirits and the Regional Dragon Ball event. And then Nick also competed in the Dragon Ball event. And technically, Jimmy competed.
Was there? He was there. He was there.
I was there. I opted to not compete in the event, but I did show up.
He was cheering us on.
Yeah. I was cheering you guys on in another building, enjoying my time.
You were actually at a zoo while we were playing the regional, I think.
Yeah. Well, we also went to the museum.
That's true.
That
we
was
did.
Enjoyable too. Yeah.
Battle Spirits real quick. I dropped out to round 2 because I'm playing set 1 that can't compete. And Jake, how'd you do?
I ended up taking 6th.
Those frames.
I went ahead and framed these up. The camera's got kind of a glare on it, but this is like the finalist card set from set 2. Ended up taking 6th place. The event was a little bit smaller as far as like a regional level event goes, and like Bancroft said, him and I both went into the event with just set 1 decks and promos, and I somehow managed to go 4-1 and ended up in 6th place.
Yeah, and the only match I think you lost, you said, was because of time, right?
Yeah, I lost my very first match due to time rules. I just ended up having less cards in deck at the end of overtime. We were actually tied on life in game 3. But ended up meeting and then playing against Cosmic Plays from the Cosmic Plays YouTube channel. He does a lot of good Battle Spirits content. And, it was pretty great. Played Purple Aggro. I guess I'll profile it for the channel since it did well, just so that list is out there. If that's something you guys want. So just chuck that in the comments if that's something you're interested in seeing.
And outside of the first event, the 3 of us did Dragon Ball, like I mentioned earlier. Jake had a rough start, but you did have a hard first round opponent, I feel like.
Yeah, I played Jordan Markle round 1, so didn't think I was coming out of that one unscathed.
He was playing...
Especially in a best of 1.
Yeah, he was playing set 21, I think, right? Or set 2021?
Yeah, set 2021, and he went first. And if you know anything about that matchup, then you know that there's really not much I can do to stop him from going into his Z-stack and getting all that going if he gets to go first. So, honestly, after playing Battle Spirits all day the day before and just hearing how much fun you guys were having walking around the con, after I'd lost my second game, I was like, you know what, it's time for me to have some fun too. And dropped out and ended up walking around and having a blast.
And you brought Trunks Cheetah. I placed 80th, and I brought AOD. But Nick, on the other hand, you had brought Green Gohan, and you got 34th.
Ooh. Yeah, we did a little bit better.
And
I went my record. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, I would continue first. You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went X and 3. I had 2 technical buys. Both 2 opponents didn't show up round 1 and round 5, so kind of lucked out on those. But my losses, I played against 2 Gohan mirrors, and one game I went second and just couldn't stop them. And then the second one I did go first, but the opponent I played against, which was really cool, he was playing the Bardock unison, which that tech was able to get him awakened faster than what I could do, and he scored out the win on that one. And then my third loss was to set 2 Vegito. He was able to get the power of Patara Seeker out turn 3, and then just like put me on the back foot for the rest of the game, which was really interesting, caught me off guard. But overall, it was a good time. We had good games, got prizing, got Nat's invite, so woo.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
Yeah, as I also mentioned, was that because of people who have already got their invites and the way it kind of bounced downward, you managed to snag an invite, which is pretty awesome. And I think both you and Jimmy now have an invite, right?
Allegedly.
Fair.
Well,
Road
congratulations.
trip.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the Power Batora was very, kind of like a sneaky play. I feel like a lot of people were doing things like that. Like, I think it was the final round. It was Legends. I can't remember their guy's name. Unfortunately, you guys remember? He was playing Green Gohan. I don't remember his name top of my head right now, unfortunately. But he was playing the Wicked Saiyans Secret Rare instead of the
Goku.
The Goku. Yeah, and I felt like that catches a lot of people off guard. Because I think Nick, you mentioned that someone else that did that, or you heard about, or something.
Yeah, it was. Everybody was kind of joking on him because he got hit with it. But I mean, that's essentially what a lot of people have to do now in this kind of meta. There are good decks that are around, but if you can catch your opponent off guard with something that's not expected, you can get wins, and it's not easy to do. But the odds start to become in your favor if you play the spicy tech.
And I do want to point this out there. Everyone I played against, amazing person. I'm glad to meet all of you all there. But the guy, I can't remember. I think his first name was Frank. But he was playing Videl. Completely caught me off guard. But it was just such a fun matchup, and really enjoyed that one. I think it was my favorite match the whole time I was there.
I feel like that's a weird thing about going to these regionals and playing in a competitive environment. Every time you ask somebody when they come away from it, they always talk about a loss as their favorite match, and I think that's kind of cool. You had the Videl. I had against Expert 21 in Tennessee, which I still think about that match. That match was insane. I think that's a cool thing to come away with, is the story of like your valiant loss, but it was just a good match.
I will say, because of this event, I will never forget about Beast Gohan's second half of its auto anymore.
Yeah.
Losing because of that was really bad, but it happens. But those were kind of like, I mean, was there any particular matchups for you, Nick, that was kind of like stood out the most?
I played against Master Roshi my final round.
Yeah.
His name was Mike. He's a really cool dude. After that final game, he let me sign one of his cards to go on his wall. It was a really fun game. So, Mike, if you're listening to this, it was awesome playing against your brother.
I guess shifting from the events themselves, what was your all's favorite moments about Gen Con in itself? Like if you were to pick one moment, like this was why I camed.
I think one of my favorite moments was when Jimmy and I sat down and got to test out the Borderlands board game. I thought that was pretty fun. Just getting to try new things, and we played, well, what was it called? Fire Tower? at the Airbnb, and that was a lot of fun too. Just getting to like try new board games that you've never played before and experience like a lot of the demos and stuff. It was that's something I'd never done at Gen Con before, and now I think next year I might only play in events one day so I can dedicate a whole day to just like experiencing demos and stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh,
Go the fuck ahead.
God damn you.
We need a talking stick.
I would agree with that. Because this was the second time I've ever been to Gen Con. The first time I only went for the Dragon Ball tournament back in 2020, I think is when we went. And that was fun, but we didn't get enough time to do anything after that, and there's no breaks for the event, so you're just constantly playing, and then once the game's over, it's nighttime, and you have to leave. So being able to actually look at the event and see what was there, and again, the testing part was really fun. Just I wouldn't consider myself too much of a board card game player. I mean, I play with people at the shop every now and then. If there's a new game, we'll try it out, but just being able to just demo stuff for free and to see what was really neat. It was an awesome experience, and now I know what to buy when it comes out.
Like that, I'm on the same page with Nick, where I've never really been a board gamer, and I never really invested in a lot of board games because I didn't know if I would actually want to sit down and play them once I actually got all the pieces out. But being able to sit down, get it demoed, like I have a long list of games that I'm really interested in buying when they come out in the future. I couldn't pick some of them up there, but I'm definitely going to pick them up in the future, just like the Borderlands game that me and Jake got to test. Being a big fan of that, it was really cool to sit down and see all this really cool stuff and get to play the game before it's officially out on store shelves. We got to try out the Versus system for the first time.
And we did this as a 3-person match instead of a 1v1, which I think is more interesting.
Yeah, that was very interesting. We all signed up for, because I was super hyped because they just did a collaboration with AEW. I'm a massive wrestling fan. I did get to meet Brandon Cutler. If anybody in the comments knows anything about wrestling, that was really cool getting to meet Brandon Cutler. Me and Jake were setting out in front of the con, and I leaned over to him. I was like, I think that guy kind of looks like Brandon Cutler. Jake's like, who the fuck that?
You pulled up a picture of him on your phone, and I was like, that is him. Like, he had the same pants on.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that was really cool to meet him. We did try out the Versus system. We did, what was it, Homelander versus Scorpion versus Britt Baker. That was a lot of fun. Me and Nick ended up buying some product there. Me and Bancroft got to try out a game called I think it was Rumbleverse. Rumble. Shit, what the fuck is that? Rumble Slam.
Yeah, I think it's yeah. That was fun.
That was one of like the most memorable demos to me. If you're not familiar with the game, it's a kind of a wrestling dice throwing game. So you got to pick your character, and they're based off of wrestlers. So Bancroft, you chose
the Hulk.
What was his name? Gunn.
Gunn. Yeah,
so
it's like a
Gunn, but it was Hulk Hogan. I don't remember the name of my character, but it was essentially the Undertaker. And then we had another guy come up and demo with us, and he was Randy Savage.
Nice.
But the guy that was giving the demo was giving it as if he was a wrestling commentator. So that was like a really cool, unique experience to demo a game with it being commentated almost.
I feel like that was probably the best experience when it comes to demoing because of his energy and what he was doing to kind of more or less, I mean, granted, he was doing to hype those who are demoing it to get them to buy the product. Neither one of us unfortunately purchased it, but it was a really fun game though.
It's something that's on my list that I'm eventually going to pick up because I did have a lot of fun with it, and I was sold on the game after we played it. And the game was just fun in itself, but getting the experience of having our match commentated like that was really cool.
Yeah, he would occasionally like put the mic out to random people walking by to get them to either cheer or boo, because like there was a certain actions would cause a cheer.
Certain actions would cause a crowd reaction.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You would roll a dice that would give you a heal or a face check, and it would either boo you and you would get negative effects, or they would cheer you and you would get positive effects when you perform certain actions. So a little bit of like meta gaming with the wrestling concept.
That's really unique.
Yeah, I thought the game was a lot of fun. I didn't buy a lot there, but like I said, I have a massive list of stuff.
You guys got to tell me about, or tell the people about this Star Wars card game you tried out, because you were texting me about it. I had to come back a day early, and I was like, oh man, this sounds really cool. And I'm not even really like a Star Wars fan much at all.
Yeah, that's another good thing about the demos is you might not even necessarily like an IP, but just getting to try something out in a essentially a free experience, quotes on that, and just getting to experience what that game entails, because the mechanics of the game are really fun. Like the IP is going to drag people in because it's Star Wars and people like it, but even if you don't like Star Wars, like the game itself mechanically is so interesting and unique where it'll hook you as a player regardless, and just being able to do that for free was awesome.
I go ahead, Bancroft.
I was going to talk about the mechanics of the game, but go ahead first.
Yeah, I agree with Jake. I am not a Star Wars fan. I'm probably a little bit more of an anti-Star Wars fan than Jake is.
Neutral.
I'm a little below neutral when it comes to Star Wars, but it was one of those things where I got to sit down and try it for free. You know, Nick was very hype on it. Bancroft had some interest in sitting down and trying it out, and I was completely won over. And it's a game that I never would have tried if I didn't get this experience at Gencon. Like, if I seen that sitting on a store shelves and all the homies were hype on it, I'd probably be like, I'm gonna let you guys do that. But like, since I got to sit down and play it, I am now interested in like building a deck when the game comes out. Like, I had such a fun time playing it, and the mechanics are so cool, which we'll get into now. But like, that's another experience that you can only get at Gen Con, is like, just go and try things that you don't think you'll like, and you might be won over by it.
Yeah. Real quick, best moments though was literally just buying new board games to play with people later on the road. Like I purchased like 5 or 6 board games, I think, and we got the chance to test out 2 of them. And that's the best part for me, is just getting new board games, because I am a huge board game fan. I have a lot of board games is the best way to put it. But Star Wars Unlimited will be coming out sometime next year. But the mechanic of it, which I really enjoyed, where a lot of games either have 1 or 2, I would say, systems. It's either, this is my turn, this is your turn. This is my turn, this is your turn. Or it's, this is my turn, you can't interact, but this is mainly my turn. And that's kind of where Dragon Ball falls. Like, Dragon Ball's like, this is my turn, you can still do things during my turn. Where like Pokemon is kind of like, I do things, you do things. This, on the other hand, is, it's more or less like a round. And during the round, you do an action and your opponent more or less does a reaction. And you guys just go back and forth until you have no actions. And the way it works is that you have a base which has a certain health point. You have your equivalent leader, which is kind of like, they're like more like leaders in Dragon Ball, where they have an effect first, which they could do based on what you do. And 2 decks we got the chance was Luke and Vader. Vader was Vader is, if you play a card on your next action, you could, if you wanted to, or whenever during your turn or your actions, you could exhaust Vader and one of your resources to deal damage to a base and to a unit. And Luke's was, if you played, I think, like an alliance, I can't remember what the correct term was for them. you could give a shield to a
You could pay a resource and then tap him to give a shield to one of your friendly rebel cards.
And the turns go back and forth, like I said, actions, and like you can play a card, you can attack with a card, but every time you play a card, it comes into place, exhaust it, and initially you go back and forth, and when you have no other actions, you go, I take initiative, so it means beginning of the next round, you will go first. The problem is that once you do that, your opponent will still get to do actions until they are out of actions, and then they will pass. And then it'll go to the next round where you guys draw 2 cards, you put a card in your resource, which cards and resources are just like energy, you'll never get them back. And then you just continue the process again. And it was really fun, primarily because there's 2 different fields. There's a space field and a ground field. And so, like, if your opponent has advantage on one field, you can still possibly take the advantage in the ground and still kind of balance the gameplay out that way. But if you control both fields, at that point, you're probably going to win the game. But it was just a fun experience having, like, 2 separate areas where you could apply forces to do stuff in. And that's what I liked about, like, it had a level of, like, I have to plan, like, if I put a troop here, will he attack it or attack my base? If I put thing here, can I maintain the advantage on this side, you know? It was a nice little check and balance.
In Nick and Nye's game, that exact scenario happened where I was able to board a ton of just like X-Wings and stuff to get into the space field. So anytime he would board something into his space area, I was able to just immediately destroy it. And he would get no value off of it, where I had nothing that I could put on the ground. And his cards just happened to be a little bit more powerful in his ground area than my flooded board in space. These just being demo decks and this being such a early version of the card game, like the guys that were working the demos, they mentioned like, hey, these cards could absolutely change and mechanics could change going into the future. But with just the mechanics that they have right now and the like limited demo decks that were available, like there's so much strategy and so many ways that you can game the mechanics of this that I'm super excited to see like what the full set's going to have, and then future sets of like how they can use these mechanics and build upon them and just make like I think it's going to I think it's going to be a massive card game, especially for Star Wars fans.
Yeah, the way this game is built, from what I've gathered, is like in some card games you will just be completely blown out of the water and you just can't recover. But the way this game feels is that it's going to be as fair as possible for both players. Like you can feel like you're being really impressive on your opponent, but your opponent will also have that same feeling. So it'll be pretty, at least from the game we played, it was a very close match, and I feel like a lot of those games will have that type of feel where it is like anyone's game until the very end, which I think is really exciting as a new player to a game, instead of just being, oh well, I just lost and couldn't do anything, to, oh, that was a really close game, let's go game 2.
Yeah, let's play again.
And truth be told, if we had more time, I would love to have played another round that. And also, real quick, when the leaders go in when you get some out resources, the leaders that you have will actually get to go into the battle area, and then they can attack things, and they have their own health and power, and they actually have additional effects when they attack us, which is pretty cool. And we were told that they actually have 3 leaders planned, and the other, or whatever you want to call them, and the other one's gonna be Han Solo, who will deal damage before taking damage, which is pretty cool.
He shoots first. There you go.
Speaking of new card games,
those deck boxes were sick as fuck.
Oh yeah, the deck boxes themselves had a flap where you could slide your base kind of into, kind of like a binder, like inside of a binder cover, where it had like the sleeve type holder. You just kind of put it right there, and you flip the deck box over. It was pretty nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Game Gencon is producing those deck boxes. I highly suggest looking them up because they are going to be Star Wars branded from the looks of it. But for Dragon Ball players, there's a spot to put your leader.
Yes,
which is really, really damn cool.
And your field card if you're
I would say, or a field
Uh,
card, so you're not
and
actually
you're field
shuffling it.
carded. So if by the time that game comes out, if Green Gohan isn't banned, you can throw your time chamber into the little slot.
Yeah.
But if you want to look at those, go check out Game Genic. I think we're all here big fans of Game Genic, and I'm almost as hype as for the deck box as I am the game itself.
Doing a quick offside thing, I had full intention of going and getting product for Lorcana and didn't. Apparently, at the day one, the fire marshals told Ravensburger that, or this is allegedly told Ravensburger that they had to fix their lines or they were going to shut it down.
Ooh.
Because it was very messy and very crowded. But then day two, they immediately had a new fix for it, which I think it made things a lot smoother. Didn't get any product. For those of you who did and got to keep your product, congrats. If you got it to sell, well.
He made some money.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Because some of those comments were going for crazy prices, I think.
Yeah, Jimmy and I talked about this a little bit at dinner on Saturday night, but I feel like as soon as Lorcana hits places like Meijer and Target and things like that, these singles prices will just skydive downwards. Like, it'll even out over time, but in this early phase, like, unless you are super worried about product availability, I wouldn't dive into Lorcana at this price point.
Yes. I mean, also, it's not technically like there's no events, so nothing happening for it. If you're trying to get it just to have it, just wait, see if you get it later. I would recommend.
Another aside, but also Gen Con related, the city of Indianapolis appears to have renewed its contract with Gen Con through 2030.
Yes.
So if you live in the Midwest, we'll still have our biggest gaming convention for another 6 years at least. And Nick and I were talking about this off and on the whole trip. Like, it looks like Indianapolis, makes a ton of money from Gen Con. I mean, they had Lucas Oil Stadium, the Convention Center, the Marriott, like, so many buildings, all kinds of restaurants downtown were supporting it.
Yeah, if you took a look at like a map of the area for Gen Con and like different events, it's like they're just the entire city is just taken up by Gen Con. Even if you go like miles and miles out, the Saturday or Friday night, we went to dinner and we went quite a bit of ways from the convention center, and we still seen people like walking around with Gen Con badges and like, you know, with games and stuff. So like the entire city just becomes Gen Con, which is it's really cool to see something like that.
The Dragon Con is kind of like that, and I'm glad to see Gen Con getting to that point. Because Dragon Con, I think if I recall correctly, the last time, it may be bigger now, but it was like 6 of their blocks was dedicated to the con itself, and people had all kinds of locations there. You could go and do events. When Nick mentioned last time we went was like either 2020 or 2021, the regional event was actually in the demo area where we played. And then I remember, like, if I had time for a round, I was able to kind of go and look at board games for like 10 minutes before I had to come back, you know? I think me and Trevor, in that first time we went, the last time, both had a turn one by, or round one by, so we both had like 30 minutes to 45 minutes to go look around and had to come immediately back. Where at this event, if you have a buy, don't leave the stadium. You're not going to get to anything and back with enough time unless you're super lucky.
Yeah, luckily there was a snack bar that was open in the stadium and had some pretty good food.
Yeah, that was just a cool environment for a card game. Especially when I got back from the museum to go visit the stadium, see how the boys were doing. Like walking in there and like looking down at the floor and seeing just thousands of people there to play games like that. That's just like a crazy thing to think like the Colts play here.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool being on the field, like looking up at the stands and the jumbotron. Like this is the point of view that like professional football players have. Like,
And like it's one of those things. It's like they're obviously not there for that, but like when I was down on the floor, just like talking to people, like looking up in the stands and seeing people like just there to hang out and like just spectate and just watch, like that was like kind of a cool thing. It had to be really cool, especially if you're at top table and you sit there and pretend that they're all there for you, which they're probably not. They probably don't even know what the fuck the Dragon Ball card game is, but that was really dope.
I did. I was sitting in those stands eating my snacks.
There was actually a moment, I think, between rounds for me and Nick. I was actually looking at the stand, see if you were there somewhere. I couldn't pinpoint. I couldn't recognize where you would be if you were even there.
Yeah.
Speaking of the stadium and hatching back on Dragon Ball, they did showcase one of the secret rares for next set, and holy crap, this is a good secret rare.
Yeah, buddy.
It's Great Ape Cooper, Ultimate Double Strike. This card is in rest mode. You don't take damage whatsoever. And what makes this even better is that if this card will be removed from the battle area by an opponent's skill, you may add one card from your life to your hand once per turn instead. So it has a way of keeping itself there. And it doesn't like the there was a Majin Green Majin Buu, I think, from set 14, that if it's in rest mode, your opponent can't attack your leader or something like that. And then when it dies, it comes back in active mode. So that way it kind of null avoids its permanent because it's not in rest mode anymore. This right here, it doesn't go away, doesn't leave, doesn't go back in active mode. It just stays in rest mode. So like your opponent has to deal with it twice just to get rid of it. And then activate main. If your life is 3 or less, you remove 2 cards in your Z deck from game. You add the top card of your deck to your life. And then activate battle for 1 energy. If your leader is black and your life is 4 or less, you can play this card from your hand or from your Z deck face up. And that's activate battle speed, which is fantastic. And if you haven't seen the reveals for black yet, this is practically foo. Like,
yeah, this fits perfect into that archetype.
And if you're going to ask your local judge or anybody on Facebook or even in these comments, placing the life in the drop area is not the same thing as damage. Do not ask anybody else about that. Stop asking that question, please. Damage negation does not work against the Gohan boss monster. I'm gonna record that on a fucking like. I'm gonna record that on a recorder, and I'm just gonna set it on the table. And it's just like, if you have a question about the Gohan boss monster, press play.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of our take to some degree of Gen Con. It seems like it was very positive. I don't think there was a moment where any of us was kind of like, oh man, this is bad. I think it was overall just a great experience. Unless you guys have something else to say about it.
Oh yeah, we played Fusion Worlds.
Oh yeah.
I forgot all about it.
No, I remember earlier, I'm like, I'll touch back to it, and again, forgot it again. Fusion Worlds was announced, and it's I'm going to say a simplified version of Dragon Ball. It goes more in the realm of like Digimon One Piece in a sense, where it's very, there's no counters at all. At least that's what was announced.
Yeah, there's not going to be any green text.
Correct. And it will play, outside that, it will play very similar to Dragon Ball, where I will swing, you go straight to combo set, and you can still combo cards out. And from what it looks like, no cards have a combo cost either. It would just be blah, 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 blah. Leaders are a little bit stronger, cards are stronger, but as of right now, at least in the demo decks, there is no cheap way of playing cards. And truth be told, if there's going to be no green text, I think that should be it. I don't think cards should be cheated out to some degree, because if you start getting to a point where you can cheat cards out like you can now, then the game's going to go by way too quick, even though they want it to be a quick base game. Let's touch base on that real quick. Jake and Nick, you all played a game against each other. And I will say, time-wise, it was a quick game, but you guys felt like it wasn't, though.
Because they were sitting there staring at each other, waiting for them to say no negate.
Yeah. Well, I think that coming from Dragon Ball, which is now called Dragon Ball Super Masters, which I kind of like that name, by the way. It makes me feel prestigious for playing it. Um, the the amount of effects and like things that are going off in that game to me make it feel very fast. And when you compare that to Fusion World's gameplay of play a guy swing, swing lead, draw a card, play a guy swing, it just feels really, really slow and honestly a little bit dull to me. And then again, we've only played with the demo decks, but personally, I don't see myself getting away from Dragon Ball Masters in any way. Like, I don't think Fusion World is for me.
Yeah, and that is the biggest takeaway of it. If you are a part of this community in any way, you have already heard the outcry of negativity around both Masters and Fusion Worlds. People are saying Fusion Worlds is a dumb idea and it's gonna die, and then there's the other people that say that Fusion Worlds is gonna take off and Masters is gonna die. There's a lot of doomsaying. There's a lot of negativity around it, and it's completely okay to express your negativity and your wants for the game that you play to the creators of the game. But on every single post that you're seeing, you see just a slew of people that are game's dead, why are you even talking about this, game's dead, doesn't matter. Get the fuck over yourself. If you don't want to play the game, don't play it.
It's simple as that.
Say your piece. Say, "Hey, Bandai, I don't want to play this game. This is. I think this is a bad idea," and give your reason. And then keep quiet. If you don't want to play the game, don't give them your money.
At the end of the day, your dollar is going to be your biggest point of action towards Bandai. So if you don't want to buy the product, don't buy the product. It's as simple as that. If you want to support Masters and keep the game alive, buy the product for Masters. Go to events. It's honestly, it's as simple as that. Show Bandai you're willing to pay money for the thing you want to experience, and that will show a lot more and reflect a lot more than just spewing negativity constantly on a Facebook post.
I will quote a lot of names in the community have repeated this. Masters will only die if Masters players kill it.
Yes.
As long as there's a player base and as long as people are supporting the game that they want to play, that game is going to continue. Bandai is not going to shut down a game that is making them money for a game that nobody wants.
Yeah.
And on that same note, it is understandable that a lot of the outcries primarily come from the digital format, that it will not be compatible to Masters.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, it does, in my opinion, it does suck that that's the case, but I'm okay with that, you know? And
I had some negativity towards that. That was something that like hurt me as a player because I was really excited for the digital client. When we got to beta test the digital client, it was so much fun, and I was so excited to be able to in the future be able to like jump on and be like, "Hey Jake, hey Bancroft, Nick, you want to catch a quick game and then play a quick game on digital client and not have to get out my webcam or slog through an untapped game." Like I was so excited for that, and especially like I have a lot of friends around the world that have interest in the game, but I can't sit down and play with them. So if I got them to download the client, I could play with them. And them changing it to being Fusion Worlds, you know, it's still a Dragon Ball game. I can still sit down and catch a quick game every once in a while if I want a card game fix. But it's not what I wanted, and it's not what a lot of people in the community wanted, but at the end of the day, you know, they have to make money somehow. And if they couldn't invest in programmers to develop a Masters online client, which that's still a possibility that could happen in the future. If Fusion Worlds does not take off and Masters still has a player base, that's where the money is. They'll invest the money in it to make more money off of us players. So, again, express your interest in the game that you want to play.
But I guess that's it for us, right, guys?
Yeah. Not much
Sure.
else.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
I got another good moment when well, two moments actually. One was Boy Scout Lane.
Dude, I knew you were gonna bring this up.
That was enjoyable driving past. Got a couple good laughs out of it. All the roundabouts. That was fun, hitting all the roundabouts. They were just spawning in front of us. It was interesting. And then also all of the traffic cones. I still don't understand why there was so many traffic cones in that one intersection.
It was crazy.
Yeah, but yeah. Also, shout out to Big Country.
Oh, yep.
He's making a comeback.
With that being said, thank you for your opportunity. Keep minders buttons links down below. Feel free to click them to different reason. And I'm going to leave you off with a picture of me and Jimmy. Have a great day.